In this video, I'm not going to be drawing a world map. I'm not going to be drawing a city or town map, but I am going to be drawing something in between. So in most of the D&D games that I have run, my players have always started out in a town. You know, a place where they can get the lay of the land, grab a few quests, get into a little bit of trouble, but it doesn't take long before they are ready to venture out from the town and explore the wilderness around it. So the first 2 pages of my D&D adventure zine is the map of Dragontown. It shows all the buildings in town and gives the dungeon master and the players a reference of how the town is laid out. You can check out the process of me making that map and learn more about town and village maps by clicking the card that's popping up above my head somewhere. But the last page of the zine zooms out a little bit and is a map of the Malomir Valley. And that's what I'm working on in this video. So regardless of the type of map that I'm making, I always start out by writing down a list of all the key locations. So for this Malomir Valley map, obviously Dragontown is going to be in there. There are the Shadespeare Mountains and the Windsong Woods, and then there are all the magical apple farms that fill up this entire valley. I guess there's also a river that runs through the valley and the roads that lead in and out and to Dragontown as well. So after I have my list figured out, then I start doing a very, very basic sketch. Really, I'm just blocking in the areas of the map, making sure that everything I have on my list is indicated in some way. I find it easiest to start with the geographic locations like mountains or bodies of water, and then add more locations in based on their scale from biggest to smallest, just to make sure I'm going to have enough room on this map. So the Malomir Valley is pretty simple geographically. Dragontown is in the center. There are the Shadespeare Mountains to the north and the Windsong Woods to the south. And really, I'm just placing a bunch of apple farms all around Dragontown. Okay, so now I have everything roughly planned out in the sketch. But before I jump into drawing the actual map, I'm gonna spend some time to make a key, figuring out how to draw all of the elements that will make up the actual illustration of this map. And because I've already made this list, I know exactly what I need to figure out. So I know there's gonna be a river, there's gonna be roads, mountains, a bunch of apple farms, and a forest. And by taking the time to figure out how I want to draw each of these elements before starting on the map, now I'm extra confident that this drawing is gonna work out and look good. So I'm drawing everything in Photoshop, but really that's not important. All of the methods and the process that I'm talking about in this video can absolutely be done with a pencil and a sheet of paper. So I have my sketch on its own layer that I've reduced the transparency of so I can kind of keep it as a point of reference, but I could just as easily have it on a separate sheet of paper off to the side while I'm drawing. Okay, so Dragontown is located in the center of the valley on the Ebon Crown River, and the east to west, north to south roads kind of cross in the middle of Dragontown. And I just like to draw the rivers and the roads first because all of the other locations on this map are going to be sort of divided up by the water and the pathways leading into Dragontown. You know, it's kind of like playing SimCity. You plan the roads out first and then you put all the buildings down. Okay, so I want this map to be a handout that a dungeon master can give to their players. So that means everything needs to be labeled and have a name. And I think what makes this kind of map super cool is that you can just put a label and sort of draw a very vague idea of what the place is. You know, just enough to give the players something to look at and say, oh, that might be a cool place to explore. And then a totally separate map can zoom in on that location and flesh out all of the details. You know, like the map of Dragontown at the beginning of the zine, or Grandpap's Farm, or the Windsong Woods, or the Shadespeare Mountains. And really, I'm keeping the Shadespeare Mountains intentionally vague because I'm going to be expanding them in the project that comes after Dragontown, but I'm keeping that a secret for right now. Okay, so I've moved on to the apple farms, and I'm starting by drawing in the names just to sort of eyeball out the spacing and make sure that there's enough room for the name to go in. And then I can do the super simple buildings and apple trees that kind of fill in the space around the name. At this point, I should say that drawing a map like this isn't particularly complicated. I don't think you have to have a ton of practice drawing to make a really cool looking map. You know, the buildings are just simple boxes with slanted roofs. The apple trees are little squiggles with a line and dots for apples. The mountains are just upside down V's, and the river and the roads are literally just lines. So my point is, don't be intimidated by the actual drawing. So I really want this to be an encouraging process so you can give making a map for your players a shot. You know, what makes these maps really cool isn't how complicated the actual drawing is. It's just spending the time filling up the map with really simple drawings, and by having a whole bunch of them, that makes the map complicated and cool looking. So like a good example is the Windsong Woods here. So a single tree is super easy to draw, anyone can do it. And a whole big giant complicated forest is just made up of individual trees. So you just draw the tree over and over again, and eventually you have yourself a big, awesome looking forest. So now that I have all of the major areas, the key locations that I listed out on my list at the beginning, now it's time to fill in all of the negative space that is left on the map. So I realized that the farms needed to have pathways leading to them, so I did that with just a dashed line. And really the rest of it is just filling up the valley full of these magical apple trees. So this map is much more of a representational style of map. It's not really meant to show the exact scale of things or how close or far away things are from each other. You know, an apple tree isn't half of the size of a mountain, and really all of these farms are probably way more spread out than they look on this map. And I guess my idea is this Dragontown zine is written by Flick Silverpin. He's this world-renowned halfling bard and storyteller that makes these guidebooks on places that he's visited. And my idea is he's the one drawing this map, so what kind of map would he put in his guidebook to Dragontown? You know, and that makes me think maybe I should try my hand at drawing a more realistic map. If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, leave me a comment. Maybe I'll give it a shot and make a video about it. Anyway, the last step is to add this layer of gray shading. This step isn't really necessary at all, but there are a couple reasons that I'm doing it. So one is to match the illustration style of the rest of the zine. The interior pages are printed in black and white, and I wanted to give a little bit of dimension to all of the illustrations that I'm filling this thing up with, so they're getting this light gray shading effect as well. Now, because this map is drawn with a fairly uniform brush, you know, it has a little bit of texture to it, but for the most part, the thickness of the line is staying the same all over the map. It makes the map look pretty busy, so I think adding in this gray shading really helps distinguish each of the individual places on the map, and it makes it much easier to look at. Alright, that wraps up the map of the Malomir Valley. Let's take a look at how it all came together. Alright, if you'd like to learn more about the Dragontown zine, there's a playlist linked in the description. I've made tons of videos all about it. I'm getting close to wrapping this project up and I'm super excited. I should also say you can pre-order the zine on my website. The link is also in the description. If you're still here at the end of the video, I super appreciate you. I hope this was informative and got you excited to try your hand at drawing your own fantasy maps. I would really love to see what you make, so if you do draw a map, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. I just love seeing what you create. Alright, that's it for the Malomir Valley. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!